Today, let's talk about money. I'm an old school D&D player. I started playing way back in the early 90s, in 2nd edition. Remember Thaco? Those were good times. One of many things that I always thought was weird was, why do we have so many freaking coins? We had them in the thousands. And why do we have coins that weren't gold pieces, since the only thing we ever did with copper pieces was throw them down hallways to spring traps and stuff? On the one hand, it was pretty cool to have thousands of gold coins. On the other hand, things usually cost thousands of gold coins too, so I guess that works. This leads to many inconvenient questions like, where do we carry it all? How do we carry it all? And how long does it take this poor merchant to count through these 5,000 gold coins I just dropped on him? I care a little bit too much about verisimilitude to let these kinds of questions go. For those of you who aren't in the US, this is 1 US cent. We call it a penny. We are not as smart as our northern neighbors, and we haven't gotten rid of this thing yet. It has almost no value, and most people wouldn't bother to pick one up if they found one on the street. In fact, about the only thing I use them for is weighing down stuff like this. These are 250 pennies. They weigh just under 1.5 pounds. They're mostly made of zinc. I super wouldn't pick these up if I found them on the ground. If these were gold, they would weigh 3.5 pounds, which is the weight of a longsword. And don't believe the hype. A longsword is a two-handed weapon. This is a US quarter. Wisconsin. I used to live there. It's about 75% copper and 25% nickel. This is that same quarter, with 249 of its closest friends. Together, they weigh just over 3 pounds. And don't be fooled, 3 pounds doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. If I had to carry this around on a regular basis, I'd be really unhappy about it. This amount of coin will buy me and a buddy dinner in downtown Seattle. If these were gold, they would weigh over 6.5 pounds, which is a lot heavier. Again, it doesn't sound like much, but believe me, it is. 6.5 pounds is the weight of a half gallon of water, or a very nicely made steel breastplate. And before you ask, I go through a lot of drive-thrus, okay? Let's pretend that you and your buddies finally struck it rich. You went down to the dungeon, you found whatever tchotchke you were looking for, you made a pile of money. And now, you want to upgrade your armor. In 5th edition D&D, full plate mail costs 1,500 gold pieces. 1,500 gold pieces, this size would weigh over 40 pounds. Now, is this the size you imagine a gold piece? Or is this the size you imagine a gold piece? 5th edition gives the guidance that 50 coins of any type weighs 1 pound. That would put the volume of a gold piece at slightly less than that of a nickel. Even then, your 1,500 gold pieces to buy your full plate armor still weighs 30 pounds. I find this terribly unsatisfactory. You know what else is weird? Why are coins named what they're made of? We don't call this a zinc piece. Don't you even get me started about nickels. A lot like last time, if we put a little bit more detail into these things and maybe put a little bit more effort into determining them, we can make our worlds just a little bit more interesting. In my fantasy world, coins are named on a per nation basis. They all tend to have the same weights and measures and therefore values, because thousands of years ago they were standardized by the dwarves. Here are a couple examples. Lanvalon names its coins after Roman coins, the sestertius, the denarius, and the solidus. This lends them an air of Old Empire, which is pretty much what they are. The practical and warlike Kajor name their coins after practical and warlike equipment, the shield, the helm, and the breastplate. Those crafty elves do name their coins after what they're made of, but in their own language, the Arius, the Argentius, and the Aureus. These are cognate with their Latin names and will sound right to a lot of people. Querthon owes its names to one of my favorite games of all time, the sword, the scepter, and the crown. And if you're lucky, you might be able to see it up here, somewhere. And now we get to the dwarves. They named the backbone of their currency the silver piece in honor of their deity of trade and prosperity, Tharker. The silver piece is named the Thark. In Dwarven, this also means trader or merchant. Going one tier down, we get the copper piece, called a pens, which means pawn in common. Going one tier up, we get the royal, which means king in common. We let the etymology slide on that one because I like the sound of it. The highest tier dwarven currency, the mithril piece, is named Ark-Royal for the Ark-Royals that presided over multiple Undermountain kingdoms in their history. And now we get to the really fun stuff. Let's dwarvenize some common sayings, shall we? I ain't got 2 red pawns to rub together because I'm very, very poor. Or, here are my 2 pawns if I'm giving you my opinion. An angry dwarf doesn't throw a fit so much as he throws tharks. And boy does a dwarf have to be angry to throw money at you. And since ducks aren't often found underground, they don't get their ducks in a row so much as they get their royals in a row. That works doubly well because it conjures images of a successful merchant rolling up his coins at the end of a day. Language is awesome like that. And this is only scratching the surface. For instance, are all coins round? All US coins are, but they don't have to be. Maybe your coins have a hole in the middle so you can string them up instead of stuffing them in a pouch. Maybe your coins are made of 2 different kinds of metal. We haven't even started talking about differing exchange rates or minting or metallurgy or any of that fun stuff. If you want to know more or just want to check my sketchy math, I'll put a link in the doobly-doo to the article I wrote. But that's enough for one video. Shoo, I'll see you on Sunday. I used to have a bunch of these in gold. Well, faux gold. Those lasted right up until the point that I realized I could redeem them for pies.